There's too many times where we end up in this struggle of, I deserve it. You have to think in the other person's shoes. Okay, well, why? And you have to be able to talk through those pieces.
Yes.
If you have a really small company and it has 10 people that work there and you want to move on to the next step, but the next step is you're an owner.
Yeah, I agree. I think that those honest conversations that's great because maybe you had an interest that the manager didn't realize you had.
Someone once told me that it might not necessarily be a win-win on both sides, which it should be, but if there's a win-win, that also means there's a lose-lose. Hello, and welcome to Express Yourself podcast. I am your host, Vanessa Martinez.
And I'm Lauren Genuardi, and we're coming to you with some questions that have been sent in. And our first question for today is, how do I negotiate a higher salary, or how do I handle or negotiate a career move? It's an important topic that most of us will face in our life, probably multiple times.
Yes. Isn't that funny? It'll be multiple times in your life.
Yep.
So, with that being said, practice makes progress.
Yes.
So, it can be scary. It most likely will be scary the first couple times you do it. Then, after time, you'll learn that it's more of a matter of fact when you're sitting to kind of negotiate those pieces. The first piece is you have to do your homework.
Correct. You have to know. You have to be armed. Forewarned is forearmed, right? Is that how they say it?
And it's truly digging into all the different, we have so much information at our fingertips now that it's about, okay, let's dig into that. Do you want to find out what typical salaries run for what you do? Of course, all of this being fully self-aware and very honest with yourself. Because I think there's too many times where we end up in this struggle of, I deserve it.
Yes.
And then you have to think in the other person's shoes. Okay, well, why? And you have to be able to talk through those pieces.
Yes.
And I'm not saying you necessarily have to always say the full story of why you're so wonderful and great. That's not where I'm getting. I'm not putting the blame on the person looking for the progress, but there definitely has to be more exposure to it, right? Let's talk about all the things that you've done and how you've helped the company grow and how you want to continue to help the company grow, as well as yourself. But with that comes that homework. So I would say dig into the different salaries in different places that can be comparable to where you are, the size of the company where you are. Because then it's more of a piece, are you negotiating your salary or your career movement within the company? Or
Yes.
do you have to look outside of the company? It's asking, if you have a really small company and it has 10 people that work there and you want to move on to the next step, but the next step is you're an owner, how do you pivot into that, right? Then you have to decide, okay, maybe there is another step, but this company doesn't have that right now.
Yes.
So definitely start with looking at other salaries, other career opportunities in other places, but being self-aware of what you've done and where do you really want to go? Is it just the next step that company is offering? Or is it something completely different? So you have to check in with yourself, more importantly. And then you will slowly have all that armor.
Yes. Yes.
To be ready to talk through with facts.
Yes. A lot of soul searching, not only from your own personal perspective, but if you have a family, really, how do these next moves serve my family? Is this the best move at this moment in our life? There's a lot to consider. But I'm going to ask you, I think, another great follow-up question that a lot of people have. I think most people don't love negotiation. I could be wrong. I could be conveniently revealing my own personal preference. I think a lot are not great negotiators. So if you have a timid negotiator or someone who perhaps just hasn't had to do it a lot, how do you get better with that? How do you improve that skill set?
I agree with you that some shy away from that just because either they haven't seen this be confronted with a combative attitude.
Sure, and receive negatively, and then they're scared.
Why would you want to put yourself in that seat? Yes. Right? So I totally understand that piece. But then we were talking about the self-awareness and just kind of know what your atmosphere is. Do you want to be in a place where that is how this is approached?
True.
And I think when we think of negotiation, it sounds like a fight.
Right. I'm going to negotiate. I want this chair, Lauren. Yes, I want to sit here. I think most people do think of it like this is going to be a battle and who's going to win it. And I don't think that there is one clear winner. I think a good negotiation, which is both sides come away from the table with something that they've wanted. And yes, maybe you get a higher salary or you get a career move that you've been hoping for, and the company maybe has another person in the lineup for succession. I mean, there is a win-win on both sides, hopefully.
And someone once told me that it might not necessarily be a win-win on both sides, which it should be, but if there's a win-win, that also means there's a lose-lose.
Yes. Yes.
So I think that's the important piece to think through here, that if it is a true negotiation of back and forth and moving up a little, then moving down a little, and this kind of situation, of course, to whatever is at your comfort level, building that confidence will come from doing the homework.
Yes.
And understanding what is fair to say this is kind of where I am. But if you're truly just stating facts and laying everything out, there should be a plan. And in some cases, depending on the size of the company you're at, it could even be a tiered approach.
Yes.
Right? So if I can prove or if I can show you that this is what I've done so far, but I know that and sometimes it's just receiving freedom, right? If you give me freedom to do these extra pieces, right, which I can accomplish, and then I can prove to you that there is a return on this investment,
Yes.
then I get XYZ more for this.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes it's showing the person across from you that you're negotiating with the value you bring. You can't think that they're so intertwined in the daily of every single person on the team that they'll know that about you.
Yes.
Of course, we could say, of course they should. That's why they're the manager. That's why they're the supervisor, whatever they are, right? But that's typically not the case because they have a million things that they're doing. So it's nice to come to the table with, this is what I feel I've done very well. This is where I would need your support. And this is what I'm looking for in my future. So I think it's a give and take there.
Yeah, I agree. I think that those honest conversations that's great because maybe you had an interest that the manager didn't realize you had. And maybe that was a hole in the company that they were looking to fill, and they didn't realize that this was something that maybe you wanted to do. And so having that open dialogue is really great, and I think can open up some doors that way too. Another great benefits of like the internet and all those search places now, sites like Glassdoor and actually like LinkedIn, it can be really great to connect with others. And it's a little bit harder, I think, when you're a student and you're just coming up. So, right, because you're sometimes still floundering and what do I actually want to do? Who do I talk to? You're talking to everybody who's way up high, and they're giving you a different perspective. But I think there's a lot of power in connection, especially once you have a few years under your belt, and really reaching and finding your community, finding other advisors, doctors, attorneys, teachers that you can speak honestly with and say, hey, these are the issues I'm facing in my career. These are things that I see coming that I might want to pivot. How do I do that? And really finding that connection.
Yeah.
and information that you can get to kind of prepare yourself for further conversations.
I think you're so right about the younger generation and feeling overwhelmed, unknowing who to reach out to.
Yes.
There, I think that there is opportunities in spaces where they're not even thinking, which is not just at home, because I get it. When you're young, your parents know nothing. But your parents' friends,
Yes. Great point. Great.
right? So I think that in our age, we've established a network.
Yes.
That if then your children feel uncomfortable, so we're going to do a swap.
Yes.
You're going to talk to my girls and I'm going to talk to your boys. When it comes to the time that they want, objective advice,
Yes.
fine, then go to someone else. Because as a mother, sometimes we're like, you're perfect, you're wonderful. Everyone should give you a raise in it. But looking at a friend of the family, I think those are really lost opportunities, because there's more than enough of us out there that are willing to lend a hand.
Yes. And I think you'll find when you do start to connect with others and show that vulnerability, that there is usually a good amount of people that are warm and open to that and see your vulnerability and see that you want to help and that you're asking, and they respond from a place of generosity and are willing to work with you and help you however they can. Doesn't mean they're going to give you a job, but they are willing to have those conversations and steer you in the right direction, or even connect you to the right next person to talk to, which is great.
That last piece is so important, right? It doesn't mean they're going to give you a job.
Yeah.
Most likely not.
Yes.
But can they put your name out there to then have other opportunities? Definite, yes. But if they'd never heard of it, they didn't even know you were interested in it, yes, and you've never taken the time to sit with them and have a conversation,
How would they know?
Yeah, what ends?
Yeah.
So make sure that you use the resources that you have. Too many times we feel like there are none, but networking has become such an easy way to continue to build your community. Of course, careful with how far you go in building and how vulnerable you become. That comes with time.
Sure.
But it's definitely out there, and that will help, even if it's just practicing your negotiation skills with one of these people's, those mock interviews.
Oh, yeah.
Things like that. So there's plenty of people out there willing to help in that area and many more. If you have more questions or want to dive deeper on this, please send them in and we'll be glad to help.
Thank you.